Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farbach. European leaders meet in Brussels this Thursday for the European Council, facing a packed agenda that spans Ukraine, European defense, sanctions on Russia, and the future of EU enlargement. Now, the discussions come only a day after U.S. President Donald Trump announced a new round of sanctions on Russia on Wednesday, adding fresh urgency to Europe's own deliberations on responding to Moscow's ongoing aggression. There are complex decisions ahead for military support to institutional reform. And now to discuss it all further, we're joined by Karolina Borońska-Hryniewiecka, expert Team Europe Direct. Thanks so much for joining us here on TVP World. Good to have you.
Good morning. Good to be with you again.
Let's begin with this big agenda. There are many things. There's migration, enlargement, defense, Ukraine. So tangibly and realistically, what for you do you see as some of the main things that this meeting of EU leaders will focus on? What's going to be the one we're going to get the most out of?
Well, I think that we should be a little bit unpopular today and start with the very good news, actually, because the day has started very well as regards the summit. Well, first of all, we have information straight from the European Council from Antonio Costa. At his welcoming remarks, he confirmed that the 19th sanction package was unanimously approved. So 27 member states approved it. We should celebrate that. And what does that mean? Well, first of all, this package focuses on restrictions on energy and financial institutions, Russia, of course, but not only, because it's also targeting around 45, 50 companies that are helping Russia to avoid sanctions. And these are third countries. So, for example, Chinese entities, but also Thai and Indian entities. And also this package will target the so-called shadow fleet. So the tankers, over 100 of tankers who are considered to be part of this, Russian fossil fuel import-export violations. So very important success. Second success, I think, Antonio Costa also said that there will be today a political agreement on continued aid, financial aid for Ukraine, 26-27, including increasing its military capabilities and spending. But also very important news comes from overseas. So yesterday, the U.S. Treasury imposed sanctions on Russia as well. This is the first time since the White House has been occupied again by Donald Trump. And these sanctions are going to pair up with this package that I mentioned. And these sanctions are targeting two important Russian oil companies, energy sector. And finally, I know it's so many good news, but it always warms up my heart when I see Volodymyr Zelensky in Brussels. And this time he was actually welcomed by President of the Council with these words, "Welcome to your house." So this really gives a message across to Russia that the European Union is not, putting down efforts on Ukraine accession, on enlargement, and also on actually treating Ukraine as de facto interlocutor and player in the European scene against Russia, of course. So these are all the good news, but there are also problems.
Right. Let me ask one thing, though. I mean, you said it's good news. That's correct. I do want to dig in a little bit more, if I may. Also, as you said, the 19th package of sanctions, that's come now. That's accepted. Fine. Especially big on LNG ban there. That's going to be big. But with also coupled, I mean, going over to the United States as well, I just want to get your opinion quickly. If we're looking at Lukoil and Rosneft, I mean, combined, I mean, that amounts to billions of dollars, billions of euros, whatever, in rubles as well for the Russian war chest. Do you see this as let's say, is it more of a slap on the wrist for Russia in terms of its economy and production, or is this more of a punch to the gut? How do you see it? And will it accelerate that phase-out ban by the Europeans now even faster, maybe?
Well, I think that it all comes to some sort of synergy and multi-directional punches to Russia, because the European Union cannot do it alone. We also know that of course, the sanction that comes from the US is only a first step. It targets only two companies. It is based on freezing its assets as well. It's putting a ban on the properties and all the subsidiaries connected with these two big companies. So it is not a huge blow, but this is the first step, and it's showing Putin that Donald Trump is getting irritated and is losing his patience in terms of Putin's readiness to accept a ceasefire and to end this war, because it's not happening, and we know every day Russia is bombing Ukraine. So this is the first thing. But also there is a very important outstanding problem, which is China's approach to Russia and the war in Ukraine, and also Chinese behavior towards, the whole, we would say, global supply chain policy. We know that China is weaponizing its position now in terms of access to raw materials. So it's not enough, these sanctions. It's also important to take some sort of a global approach to that, to be able to weaken Russia very much. And here China is a critical player as well. But it's a good start, definitely. And it's really, imagine that this does not happen. Then we would be really frustrated.
Right.
Now we have a good first step, and we should build on that.
It's a good first step. Also, I want to just come back to numbers. I mean, we have 27 member states, but we're not quite all gathered, are we? At the moment, we still have Viktor Orban not there. He's supposed to be delayed because of what's happening, marking the 1956 Soviet uprising, rather the uprising against the Soviets. Looking at his absence for the moment, and I want to go into your expertise also in terms of voting and European affairs. Many of these decisions require unanimity. We've seen that again with the sanctions package, but at this level, we need more. Orban has not been, let's say, so keen on supporting Ukraine, to say the least. What about this whole idea of voting? Is there a way that this is going to change? I mean, treaty change required here? Are there exceptions, this passerelle clause? Give us a short take how voting is going to focus on. Is there any way to change it looking into the future? Will the summit maybe do something in this direction?
Well, first of all, we do need unanimity for every sanction package. So all member states have to agree. And here, the success I mentioned, Orban is not abstaining and Orban is not vetoing it. Quite a little bit ironically, he's actually staying in Budapest and skipping the discussion on Ukraine. So the conclusions on Ukraine, probably taking place early afternoon, will happen with 26 member states. But these are only conclusions. The sanction package is something apart from it. So this is secure. And I want to say, obviously, we've seen over the last years, especially after the outbreak of war, we need swifter, easier decision-making process, which is able to bypass veto players like Orban and Hungary. Therefore, the calls from different capitals, especially from Germany, but also from France and other countries, to shift to qualified majority vote in delicate areas that used to be tackled with unanimity, which is common foreign policy, security, sanctions. And here we have two options. One option is to exploit possibilities of this treaty, Lisbon Treaty, which means using or activating the so-called passerelle clause, which is basically making a bridge from unanimity to qualified majority. But the trick is that you need unanimity for that move. So countries have to say, okay, we are all fine, and we give a green light that we deal with that issue by qualified majority voting. This is almost impossible for blockers like Slovakia or Hungary, which means other countries are calling for treaty changes. The treaty changes, it's a very protracted and long-term process, which requires also ratification in all member states. So it's like everybody has to agree on qualified majority vote. This is a closed circle, and only goodwill and only some sort of tricks are able, for example, constructive abstention. So, for example, a country is allowing others to vote sort of saying, okay, I will not put the brake into the wheel, and I will simply abstain. I don't know what will happen with implementation of that decision, because we have never had such a situation before. So it's a complex issue, very demanding, requiring a lot of talks on the top executive positions. Definitely this summit, although it's very, very packed, and it's dealing with very controversial and compromise requiring issues, has started in a successful way.
Just briefly, we're coming tight on time here. I just want to get just really, really quickly your view on the frozen assets. I mean, that was actually held up mostly, not really by Hungary, but by Belgium. They've kind of removed their objections, sort of, kind of. Will we now see finally a use of more Russian frozen assets, and actually Belgium stepping out of that after this summit?
Well, it's quite understandable that Belgium had some issues with this, because the situation is like that. Belgium was holding out its voice to allow for kind of use of the frozen assets, but these frozen assets are held in Brussels at the Financial Depository Court called Euroclear. So this is a responsibility of Belgium to say, hey guys, you can use this money to support Ukraine. So Belgian Prime Minister was asking for two conditions to be fulfilled: full mutualization of risk in case there is Russian retaliation, in case at some point in time, obviously not now, Russia wants this money back. And it's not easy to say, okay, you have to pay reparations to Ukraine. No. I mean, there is international law, and European Union by law is a community of law, and it has to obey it. So first thing, member states should guarantee that they will mutualize any risk. So they will pair up with Belgium if there is Russian retaliation, and that there is guarantee coming from all member states who are calling for this.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to interrupt you there, Karolina. There's too much to analyze, to talk about, but for sure we'll be looking at how these issues will be untangled. There's much more to deliberate. We'll analyze it another time. But look, really, really appreciate all those insights. That was our guest here today, Karolina Borońska-Hryniewiecka. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
And thank you for watching, but stay tuned. Much more coming up right here on TVP World, so don't go away.